Okay, welcome to the September 18th edition of the Committee of Adjustment. I'm calling this meeting to order. We begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. So welcome to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of St. Catharines. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. There are two major types of applications of this committee: applications for consent and severance, and applications for minor variances to municipal zoning bylaw requirements. Evidence may be given under oath, may be required to be given under oath if deemed necessary. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Additionally, please maintain respect while communicating with the committee, staff, and other meeting participants to ensure smooth and orderly discussion. That's new. Copies of the decision will be mailed to the applicant and other persons who appeared before the committee or filed a written request to receive a notice of decision. Pursuant to the More Homes Built Faster Act, and in the matter of consent applications, the applicant, the minister, or a specified person or public body that has an interest in the matter has a right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of the consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the mailing of the decision. Within 20 days of the, got lost. Within 20 days of the decision. The minor variance decisions may also be appealed. However, they must be made within 20 days of the making of the decision, and the cost of an appeal is $400. Forgive me for not having memorized that, but I still have to read it. Are there any amendments or additions to the agenda?
Some additional comments were received and added to the comment package for 43 Old Coach and 293133 Cecil Street. And additional pictures were received by the owner of 43 Old Coach late this afternoon. We are unable to circulate to everyone, but I have sent them to Sarah to show the committee when we hear that application.
Okay, thank you. May we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Jamal, thank you. May we have a motion to adopt the minutes of the last meeting? Tom, thank you. Does any member of this panel have a conflict of interest in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing or the previous hearing if they were not in attendance? No, nor do I. We'll get to the, can't hear. Shall I speak closer? Okay, thank you. To the detriment of everybody else, I'm going to speak closer to the mic. You did that already. Are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
There is a request for an extension of the deferral for 9 Michigan Avenue for a minor variance. And I believe the agent's here today.
Well, let's deal with that right now. 9 Michigan Avenue. It does, and you've picked the wrong one. Really it doesn't matter, but If you could state your, do we need a name and address of the applicant? Yeah, you're here. So with respect to the deferral, obviously, it is with respect to awaiting a final report from the soils engineer to be reviewed and address concerns in our Prince Conservation Authority. Is that the general requirement?
Yeah, we've received our soils report. Now we're just waiting on discussions with MPCA.
Super. So you're asking for a 3-month deferral. Correct. So would a member of the committee like to do advance the current date by 3 months and make a motion?
I'd like to move that the application for 9 Michigan Avenue be deferred for 3 months.
All those committee members approve the motion. Great. In favor? Thank you. Great. We'll see you in 3 months.
Thanks. Take care.
So at this point, we are at our list of regularly scheduled agenda items, starting with an application for 43 Old Coach Road. So if the applicant would please come and join us. There's a bit of history behind this application, which has been a year and 4 months in the making, I suppose. And the brief history is the applicant was taking time to try and provide us information to fulfill some gaps in the understanding of the project which relate relationship to surveys and stormwater management plans. And the information that we have before us by way of a staff report for A5423 is that variances 3 and 4 of the application are recommended to be denied. Variances 1 and 2 have been withdrawn. So we're only considering variances 3 and 4, and variances 3 and 4 relate to the minimum setback from an interior side yard lot line to an accessory structure, which is the pool shed, which is in the back corner of the site. And variance 4 is the minimum setback from a rear lot line to an accessory structure, again, for the pool shed. Both required to be 6.6 meters, and the current location is less than. To the applicant, is there anything you wish to add to the discussion?
Am I allowed to speak, or? Okay, all right. It's been almost 2 years of tremendous stress and final devastation for me and my wife. We're retired and we're working on a limited pension. We've lived at 43 Old Coach Road for over 35 years. We have zero history of any issues being in court or whatever until we had a new neighbor move in next door. We purchased a family home with a permitted pool and fenced yard. It was existing, it was that way. We have original survey dated 1965, that should be in the files. I have a copy right here. And that was the original survey that was provided to us within our legal documents when we purchased our home. There was a 10 by 14 steel shed that was in the northwest corner. We later added an addition and a garage. Both were permitted and both were inspected, and extensive draining systems were constructed and approved by city inspectors and officials. The side fences were replaced just over 30 years ago. The fence was replaced on the east side at our cost and replaced an existing fence. It was agreed upon that it was in the exact same location. There are even cut posts that I had left proving so, and I have pictures. The back fence was built approximately 1 foot inward from the existing white chain link fence. Where the existing fence was, right. If you measure from the, okay, so it was built in 6 inches, so there's a white fence along the back of the property line, and then there's a foot, and that foot was left intentionally for drainage, and then I installed my wooden fence, as you can clearly see in that drawing there. If you were to measure...
Not to interrupt your flow, but
Sorry.
specifically, the committee is looking at the minor variances with respect to the infraction of the shed with the circle around it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so this is relevant, okay?
So, yeah, so if you were to measure our foundation 6 feet from the side on the shed that is in question, as described from the original survey, our actual property line from that original survey shows that my fence line is actually 6 inches inward from that. As of right now, none of our buildings encroach, or none of them encross property lines. Our variance application is due to the result of a new survey correcting the old original survey and installments. There was no ill intent or malicious intent upon construction. The new survey results were absolutely shocking and devastating to us. We even had them, I even had them do the survey a second time to make sure that the first guy didn't mess up on the front pins, and had to verify it again. It was also verified a third time. I paid to have it, so I paid for 3 surveys. to verify the front location. The back pins were where we expected them to be. The pool house was just replaced over 12 years ago. This structure was, it replaced a 10 by 14 shed. We have picture proof of that as well. It's also at the same low elevation. The area of the shed itself is less than 10 by 10, which was the code back then. The only issue is the roof canopy. If we were not aware that the shed was not permitted when we purchased. We just assumed that because the pool and everything was inspected, that the shed was permitted. Number 41 Old Coach Road on our west side, which is in question, was purchased by Ms. Bauer knowing that there were water issues and they were existing. A bright yellow pail could not have been missed during that purchase or those inspections. And we have pictures of that as well. We're being held accountable to fence installations over 35 years old and may have even been the original installations over 50 years ago. I don't see how this is possibly fair. I only asked for the same consideration that my neighbor has been given. I have been continuously working for 2 years now to resolve complaints and issues that have been issued to us from our inspectors, installing gutter systems, cutting off pipes and blocking pipes. I've done everything that they've asked me to. A new survey should not allow me to be punished for actions of others up to 60 years ago.
Okay, thank you. If you could turn your mic off, please. Are there any questions from the members of the committee to the applicant? Okay. Carrie, you're reaching for the mic?
I am. There's a lot to digest in this file. But the one thing that I do recall, there are others, but the one thing that rises to the top was there was a reference to a survey that was done in recent times. Yes. But you didn't hand it over to the city. I'm assuming that's correct. And I'm wondering if that is correct, why that was not the case.
Okay. First of all, in the excerpt from the critical area was handed over. There was my pictures were not issued. All my materials were not issued until today. Somehow they were missed, and all the pictures I wanted to issue for this were missed as well. Okay, they're available now. Yeah. Okay, but they were missed. But I also, what it is that excerpt. I have an email from the surveyor that I actually had it extracted from, and that should be in one of the pictures, okay? Why I didn't, so that was showing the area there. I knowingly knew that you guys were going to get a copy of the survey when I did my elevation and drawing plan when my engineer did that. So you're gonna get it anyways. Did I want my survey to become public knowledge? No. Okay.
When the word survey was used,
Yeah.
my assumption is that it's in printed form, okay? There is a document that presents the structures on the land that was done recently. Is that correct?
I have all three here, sir. I can flash them if you'd like me to for your verification and of course verification.
Thank you.
So this here is the original document, a copy of the original document dated 1965 by R.T. Howe, the original. I checked, he's still on Church Street. He handed over to J.D. Barnes, his business. He sold his business to that. This is an excerpt, and I do have an email contacting Roy, who was the head guy at J.D. Barnes, and I wanted a blow-up of the in-question structure. I did provide the city with that. This here is my survey that was completed for my property, and this survey was handed to Sam DeRose. Sam DeRose took this exact survey and gave it exactly as is, 100% complete, to the city with his elevation drawing and everything else. That is an exact copy of the exact survey. So I did not. Sorry, sir? Twice. It was, as far as I know, it was applied twice, right? Today? I'm sorry.
May 14th, 2014.
24.
Yeah, that was the original one, and like I said, I paid for them to come back and verify the front stakes because they were not anywhere close to where we thought they were. They were greatly inward.
Through you to planning, have you got a copy of the May 2024 survey?
Through the chair to the committee of adjustment, we did not get the survey. We got the grading plan.
So you're saying no?
As far as I know, we did not receive that survey.
Sorry, if I can clarify. The city received a draft version of the grading plan that's up on the screen on Monday of this week. It appears that this grading plan was prepared based on a plan of survey, but we were at no point where we provided with the actual survey.
So it's not uncommon for a design professional or the professional engineer who stamped this to have taken the information to prepare a grading plan based on a survey. Often, the survey, which is based on, is referenced on the drawing, which is not in this case. But there's no reason, I would assume that the city could proceed with this information as was presented in this format, as opposed to being the survey from a land surveyor.
I think it's reasonable to assume that this was based on that survey, but again, we can't confirm that.
Okay, great, thank you. Kerry?
So is it fair to say, through you to planning, that when we're talking about an application for a minor variance, it is in relation to the property line, the established property line, hopefully with some form of survey, and that would verify that the numbers are correct in terms of the application?
There are a couple concerns that arise from this survey relative to the application that was made to the committee. The relief that is sought in the application, so the magnitude of the setbacks that were requested in the application are not consistent with the setbacks that are identified on this plan. This plan also does not identify the location of the eaves and gutters for those accessory structures, only the footprint of the accessory structures themselves. The committee may be aware that our bylaw has setback requirements for the structures and then additional setback requirements for eaves and gutters. So it would be, if there's a deficiency there, that would be an additional variance that hasn't been requested. Part of the challenge, like as I mentioned earlier, we received our first look at this plan on Monday of this week. It's apparent that there is a disconnect between the minor variance application that was submitted and the surveyed location of the properties on the lot. It would appear that if the committee were to grant approval of the requested variances, they would not in fact be sufficient to grant the actual relief required to permit the structures to remain in their current location. That's one of the reasons why we had requested the survey early.
Thank you, and I think there was reference, I'm going by memory, that there was reference to the grading plan, which is based on this survey that you haven't seen, determined that the vinyl shed was in violation of the setbacks. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the committee member, yes, this grading plan shows that the vinyl shed is 0.16 meter away from the lot line, which is in violation of the required setback of 0.6.
So in the technical report, I believe originally the indication for recommending a denial was concerning drainage. And then
as Scott mentioned, there are several reasons for recommending denial of this minor variance application. Drainage was one of those reasons. And of course, the fact that requested variances don't represent the actual setbacks to the lot line.
I'm just having a comprehension problem here as to why, like, I don't see how it was to your advantage not to submit the complete survey.
But before you answer, just, the city is satisfied that in their report that they provided and amended with respect to removing 2 variances and proceeding with 2 variances, but recommending a denial, is the city satisfied that they've covered all of the bylaw infractions on that this property has? Or are you, am I hearing that you think that there are others, but you have no way, you've had too soon, the information was provided too soon for actually to confirm that, and it's not covered by this application?
Based on the information we have now at this point, we are not confident that should the Committee of Adjustment approve the variances that have been requested, that they would actually, in fact, provide the relief that the property owner requires in order to proceed to obtaining a building permit for the, I'll call it the pool shed.
So at the point, at the point when, so that this applicant, the applicant still has to go prove to the building department that their already built building meets their requirements. And at that time, it will be circulated back to planning for their review. And at that time, they may say it does not in fact meet their requirements and request of the applicant more minor variances?
In short, yes.
Okay, we're just looking for short.
Yes.
Thanks. So, just one moment. So, so generally speaking, this application that has been limping through this process is, we've been trying to afford the applicant opportunities to dot the i's and cross the t's in this application, which appears to be still a struggle, which hence the clarification that's being asked for by the members of the committee and the response that we're getting from the planning staff. So, but this is not the last opportunity for this application to be, for this project to be reviewed. It will still have to go before the building officials, building department, to pass their Ontario Building Code requirements test. So with that clarity, does that help members of the committee to focus on the staff recommendation to consider only minor variances 3 and 4 as they relate to only the pool shed, as it relates to its infraction of the zoning bylaw being closer than 0.6 meters to both the interior and rear lot line? And then we will allow the next phases of this application, will allow the application to its merit to be judged by the next overseeing body, which would be the building department. Or it doesn't smell right, and we want to make sure that it smells right before we make a decision.
I think we want to make sure
May I
it smells
speak?
right.
Okay.
And in particular, I have a question regarding the, this document, which is the blow-up. I have a question regarding the blow-up of the
Please.
corner here. And if I read it correctly, there's a 0.12 meter setback from the property line. Am I reading that correct?
I believe so. Am I allowed to speak now, please? Okay. In regards, there is documentation from the examiner himself in regards to the process. I have never been actually told that I have to, through a notification, email, or anything. I have only been like threatened or told that I'm going to have to get a building permit. Upon that, first being told upon that, I came down to City Hall, and they told me that they cannot issue a permit until the variance issue is resolved. And even the examiner, I'm trying to remember, the head examiner in the first agenda notes that were handed out, if you read that there, he basically said that if, I'm expecting that if you guys appeal this, you guys let this pass, my next hurdle is going to be, they've already prepared for me that I have to go through a building permit for it. okay? So again, I state that I was unaware that there was not a building permit, but there seems to be a progressional plan here that I have to get over many hurdles. But that was made very clear to me, again, like I said, that the examiner even confirmed that is that I have to do the variance process before the building permit process, that's second. It's been confirmed several times. Also, I don't believe there's any unclarity here at all. When you look at the fence is on my property, on the property line, and the picture that you may not have seen actually takes a picture. I took a picture, and you can see that the eaves truss is inset to that fence. So that's why there's a blow up, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to hide anything from anyone. I also was advised by J.D. Barnes that once I made any kind of major change to my drawing, which was I cut down the pergola to be compliant. Now, as soon as I did that in theory, that survey became null and void. He told me that. And he told me that he says I would strongly suggest that you keep this as personal as possible. So the only person that he told me, but I knew you guys were going to get it anyways because I did the blow up for convenience and clarity, right? And you guys were going to get it because the drawing plan and elevation plan has to be the entire property. It's illegal. I checked into it. Sam DeRose gave that information because you need the entire property. It's not considered valid, and he cannot legally stamp it with his engineering certificate.
So what's occurring to me is we're only looking at this particular building. Its infraction with respect to the site, to the setback to the building face, and then, you know, this rain gutter is clearly at least the interior face of that fence. The fence was probably not surveyed when it was installed, so it's probably plus or minus the property line. The survey we've seen now shows the fence relative to the property line, and it shows that this rain gutter is probably not where it needs to be relative to the zoning bylaw, but that's not on our list of variances today. So with respect to you know, this being an application which does not have all of its I's dotted and T's crossed, I feel that the application as outlined and commented on by the staff report, only looking at variances 3 and 4, and their recommendation for denial is how they feel, that we can continue just to look at variances 3 and 4 and ask any clarifications we need relative to that and deal with the application. We're dealing with the application in front of us, not what could be on there or should be on there. And if we're trying to highlight the fact that there was information that was withheld that didn't allow us to make a clear decision, I think that the implication has been made already. So is there anybody, at this point, I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the gallery who wishes to speak to this application? Oh, it's the bottom,
Thank you. Okay,
may we have your name and address, please?
Donald Lum, L-U-M, address 45 Old Coach Road. I'm right beside 43. I'm a retired water resources engineer. I've worked 42 years as a water resources engineer. I was a manager of engineering at the South Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, and I review site plans, water management plans, any applications that's going to affect our regulations related to fill lines. That being said, I am a hydrologist, hydraulic engineer, geotechnical, and I understand water, runoff, groundwater flow. I understand piezometers, well points, so I understand those things. When I heard on Friday, just Friday the 13th, that the city was going to be talking to Mr. Clout about many things involving offset distances and stuff like that. I don't have an issue with offset distances, even if I live next to the guy. I do have a concern about a drainage plan or a drainage concept plan that doesn't really answer my engineering questions. How are you going to convey the water from one property across the back of his property, make that water turn almost 90 degrees and head towards Warrington? As a water resources engineer, I walked and I looked. I see the pathway that the engineer pointed out to me when I was on site on Friday. James, I think James is his name. And I did note, if the original survey, the grading plan for that subdivision was done in 1964 or whatever, that's 60 years ago. Everybody has bought property. They've made modifications to their property, maybe even the backyard of their property. If they put fill in, if there was a swale to help convey water for properties from their backyard, and then turn the water 90 degrees, maybe 110 degrees or something like that, whatever. You're making it turn to go towards Warrington. There's mature hedges on the pathway going towards Warrington. As soon as you turn that corner, there's hedgeway. Because my property, if you want to show it on the map, you can see mine right beside his. Yeah, I'm on this side. Okay, I have a swimming pool. I like my swimming pool. In that back corner, near the top of the page there, I've never had any flooding. I've lived there 20 years. I've never had any flooding, but the previous owner, Mrs. Trojan, told me there's one time there was a mud flow, it's called overland flow, that's basically coming from that corner into her swimming pool. And I said, that must be a lot of water coming through, because the concrete pad around that swimming pool, that concrete pad is a minimum of 3 feet wide, and for the water to get over that concrete pad, it had to go almost a foot in that corner. In other words, the water had to be almost a foot to just overflow into the swimming pool. Mrs. Trojan told me that Mr. Klug, he operates a sump pump on his own property at the back corner. The intention there was to try and minimize the amount of water that's ponding on his own property. Also, property 41, Old Coach, they also have a pumping system. So the original owner of that property felt that he had a ponding problem on there. And evidently, both property owners were thinking, I want to minimize the ponding on my property. If there's too much ponding, I'm going to have my sump pump it out. And obviously it worked. And when Mr. Klug has been operating his system, I've never had a flood coming into me. And there have been various occasions where other property owners complain, ponding on my property. As a hydrologist, I'm going to say, heavy snow, frozen ground, and quick melt with the rain on snow. I'm a hydrologist. When you have that combination, high temperatures, rain on snow, that snowpack is going to come back. You can have 10 inches of rain, 10 inches of water at the interface of the snowbank and the grass. If you have 10 inches of rain, that water wants to run somewhere, and it's going to run down. And when they tell me they're going to turn the water to Warrington, I said, but I see no details. How are you going to do that? So my concern is this. It's the water drainage plan. From my perspective, I took the time to read the entire document that you sent out. I had to read it because I only got it Friday night or something like that, okay? And I'm trying to understand what's going on. There's two issues. One is the offset distances on a bunch of buildings, which doesn't, for me, it's not a problem.
Well, I just want to interrupt for one quick second. So with respect to the zoning bylaw, just going to ask a question for clarification. Lot coverage. Every zoning bylaw, every zone has a maximum lot coverage. Is it the intent and purpose of that portion of the zoning bylaw to limit impervious roof area and therefore the inability for open land to absorb water? Because we're not here for a lot coverage issue. We're not here for a drainage issue at this point. And so while everything you're saying from your experience might be correct, how do you feel that this pool shed in its proximity to the property line is contributing to the over water flow and negatively impacting your property?
Answer is this. If the runoff from the roof, if you have what I call gutters, and your gutters capture the rain that's coming off your roof, and if you deliberately have the rain gutter pipe heading onto your own property towards the interior of your property, then I would say, I'm fine with that. But if he turned his gutter towards my property, I would have to stick my hand up on that. So the
You've
question
observed that
about-
that's the case here?
Pardon me?
You have observed that that is the case here?
I'm not, you asked me the question about that
Well, I'm
building
trying
there
to focus,
and
I'm trying
and
to
the
focus,
runoff,
I'm
the
trying to
runoff.
focus the conversation on the fact that we are not making a determination on the design, the site, the stormwater management design that will be made during the building permit application. It's information that's required. We're just looking at a consideration of whether this gentleman can keep his shed in violation of the side yard and interior,
Can I
side
address
yard
that
and rear
then?
setback.
Can
So
I
I'm just
address
trying to move this along and
Okay,
focus you.
let's focus this one, okay? The offset distances are what they are, okay? It's in your bylaws, okay? The process allows that if a homeowner requires a variance, the process allows him to present his information and the reason why something like this.
That's exactly
has
why we're
happened,
here.
okay?
We know.
And my understanding is that originally when he was building things, he was going by the fence line and he thought he had his 2 feet, okay? And that's an honest mistake. I'm not going to kill him on that one. But what I'd say is this. Now that you have a new survey plan, good. Now we get more information that identifies exactly what is that offset distance. If the offset distance is changed by 6 inches from where it was before, from my perspective, you did violate the bylaw, and you have to have your hearing. And the committee is going to listen to pros and cons and even listen to
You're describing this process right now, we
yeah,
know.
Okay.
What's
So
happening right
it's
now
good.
live.
It's good. So I've taken the advantage or the opportunity to come here at least to speak to it. For the violations, I'd say, yeah, the violations are there. I do not know whether, from my perspective, the amount of runoff that comes from his property onto mine, I don't really feel that that's going to be an issue.
Let's suppose that that they decide to pick up the building as it is and move it in, and they're not longer in violation, it's just the same amount of roof coverage, same amount of water hitting the ground, only they meet the variance requirements. Part of the building code part of the experience that he's going to have, which will be just as fun as this, will be the part where they look at the stormwater management plan in relation to this building where it currently is. So I understand, like, for example, a week Monday ago, there was a torrential downpour of rain. What did you witness on your property in that back corner? Did it flood?
Mine didn't, but our church did on Scott Street.
But your church is fine. But my point being, something in the back to accommodate that much water, where my driveway and my business flooded on Church Street, would suggest that whatever's happening in the back corner, in that back property, is not imposing undue hardship upon you. So really, I think that the issue is, what we've heard is, you now understand that this existing building, as proven by the most current information, is in violation of the side yard and rear yard setback. And to that, you say that it is unacceptable to you?
No, I said that I'm okay that the building is too close to my property, but I'm not going to have a big issue, and I'm not going to chase you for that one.
And we're not actually talking about the building closest to your property. We're talking about the pool shed, which I believe is on the other side. So the building that I see your pool, and I see the applicant's building adjacent to it, that is not the one that we're focused on. We're in fact focused on the triangular shaped building, the pool house, correct? Right? I got that right.
It has a very small roof area, you know that, eh?
Well, yeah. So I think we understand your point. This is your opportunity to make it. So I'm trying to convince you that we understand the perspective that you have with respect to this application.
Okay, last point.
Excellent.
Because I read the document and it ties two items. One is the offset distances to a drainage plan that must be submitted, because the focus here for some people is definitely, we need to get that drainage plan. We got to understand it. And my understanding, something has been submitted very, very recently, whether people have had enough time to really study and look at it. I looked at it and I said, how the heck are you going to turn it there? Because unless you have a bend, a culvert, if you want to put in a retaining wall to force it that way, then you have to tell these other homeowners, we're going to cut down your hedges.
So I think that the clarification here is, let's say that the house exists, we all know that, and at whatever period of time that these various sheds were added without a building permit, if the owner did their due diligence and knew that building permit was required, the process that's going to happen now is retroactive. The buildings do in fact exist, but with respect to so there's not going to be any significant modifications made because it's recognizing an existing situation with respect to rainwater. But that will be dealt with at the building department phase. We're not the experts on this. Really, we're just focused on possibly, as per the staff recommendation, variances 3 and 4, and whether or not we agree with staff that they should be denied to accommodate the pool building, which is the one in the opposite corner from you. So thank you for your second point.
Okay, my last thing is this. I think that with so many new things coming in, that to me, from my perspective, I think that if you can defer your decision on
We've deferred this for a year and a month,
I realize that.
16 months.
Yeah, I realize that. I've been in your chair before, okay? And because what I'm looking for is, let's try and get a cordial response that the parties can say, we're okay with this, okay? And unfortunately, this one is maybe a little more complicated than others, and it may take a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, if the real objective was we need that drainage plan, be honest about it. If that's what you really need, well, then focus on that one, and let's get one, but you're not going to get it tomorrow.
No, we have, yeah, agreed, thank you.
Okay, so I would
cutting
recommend
you
you
off.
defer your decision, and whether you say, oh, no, we got to meet again, but anyways.
No, I think we fully understand. Just sit tight, though. Are there any questions from the members of the committee no? Okay, no?
No, but I have one for you.
Well, we'll let you return to your seat, thank you. And if you could turn off your mic before you leave. There we go.
I have one that might be for Elaine, but I don't know who it's for. If we were to deny variances 3 and 4, presumably the applicant would have to make another application to come back for revised measurements. Is that correct?
If they want to, if they wanted to.
Assuming that
apply,
measurements are different from what are on this
They would
page.
have to come back, yes. If it's
Okay.
denied and a decision is made, yes.
If we were to defer it, could all of the numbers be corrected
That would
so
be
that
up to
we're
the
making a
committee.
decision on the correct numbers at least?
That's up to the committee, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd like
How
to make
comes-
a, I'd
well,
like to
I was
make a
curious,
motion.
why wouldn't staff recommend deferral?
Yeah, that's just what I was
What was the question?
You could put it all on us now, I think you're just deflected
Well,
there.
anyway, I'd like to make a motion that this be
Well,
deferred.
no, I'd like to have an answer to my question first.
Okay,
Staff were directed by the Committee of Adjustment to bring the matter back to the committee on this date for a decision, for your consideration. My understanding is the reason for the previous deferrals were to provide the applicant with sufficient time to prepare a survey, prepare a grading drainage plan for staff review so that we would have the opportunity to make sure that the variances being requested were accurate and reflected any additional relief that may be needed to achieve whatever grading and drainage solutions were going to be needed. That 16 months passed, and up until Monday of this week, we didn't have that information. So, and
Okay, so you're sort of administrative, the recommendation for deferral is kind of an administrative way of saying that you're not going to, we don't think you should get this, what you want, but really based on the fact that we don't have numbers that we can actually confidently proceed with.
I think it'd be fair to say that staff certainly do not have sufficient information at this point to make a favorable recommendation.
Okay, thank you. David?
I'd like to move that this application be deferred by a month and that these numbers get corrected so that we make a decision based on the actual numbers, whether it's to defer or to approve, but at least to be made relative to correct information.
Okay, we'll call that a motion, but I'd like to have I'd like to discuss that among the committee before we vote. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Through you to planning, I'm assuming that if one's desire was, as an owner, to clear up whatever might be outstanding, vis-à-vis not only the shed, but anything else, there should be an application for a minor variance relating to the vinyl shed. Is that right?
If, through the chair to the committee, if the committee does request an additional deferral to allow the applicant to update their application to make sure they capture all zoning deficiencies that would actually be required to allow the city to issue a permit for the structure, that might take some time. What we would need is certainly an updated application form or an addendum, an amendment to their application form, I should say. It would be continuation of the same application, just with additional variances added. We would need to provide proper notice of that. We would need to circulate it, of course, and we would have to conduct a proper review. I don't know if 1 month would be sufficient in order to undertake all those steps. It may need to take more time for the city to be able to provide the required notice.
Thank you. Through you to planning, I'm assuming, but I may be wrong, that the building permit would only relate to the pool house and not the vinyl shed?
Through the chair, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
I know we have a motion before us, but didn't have an opportunity to determine whether or not there's anybody else in the gallery who wishes to speak. So we might have to, we'll just postpone that motion for another reread, depending on whether or not there's somebody here who wished to speak to this application. Same drill, turn your microphone on, let us know your name and address.
Is the volume good?
It's great.
Okay. So my name is Jenny Bauer. I'm at 41 Old Coach Road.
My name's Natalie Napierli, and I'm at 10 Warrington Place.
So thank you for having us here tonight to share perspective. Some of the property owners weren't able to attend due to family commitments, so there's actually a group of 5 property owners that are affected by this. So that just kind of to set just to level set who's involved. Our inquiry with the city in 2022 regarding the drainage issues at the rear of our properties for Old Coach and Warrington was initiated to inquire about the flooding issues in the backyard. So we engaged the city after several attempts to work with the applicant between the months of June 2022 and September 2022. The applicant informed us that the drainage and flooding was not his problem. After this, we thought it would be good next steps to contact bylaw to inquire as to why the flooding was occurring if nobody had an answer as to what was happening. So after this, we contacted bylaw to get more information. We were informed the drainage and flooding issues were due to a lack of discharge and outlet, and it could have been part of a more complicated issue at the applicant's property, and the bylaw officer at the time advised that there would be further investigation needed. From there, we then engaged city staff to understand what next steps were available and followed staff advice on how to proceed. So first of all, we were advised by staff to speak with the neighbor and try to work together as a group to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome. We tried to speak with the neighbor several times over the past 2 years. Sometimes we were certainly able to have a conversation, and sometimes we were not. We asked the neighbor most recently in May, after the second deferral was granted, if we could work collaboratively on a resolution. At that point, we offered to cost share some of the expenses for the engineer, mainly with the goal of finding a resolution for the drainage. At the end of the conversation, we agreed that the applicant would get back to us. We didn't want him to feel pressured to give us an answer in the moment. We said, why don't we try to reconvene in 2 weeks? To date, we still haven't heard back from that conversation. The owners of the 5 affected properties have been ready and willing to work with the applicant to resolve the drainage issue, but our offers were not accepted. The second piece of advice we were given was that we may need to engage in legal action against the applicant. City staff advised us to seek independent counsel, and we are, quite frankly, nobody's interested in that. Nobody has time for that. We don't feel like it's very neighborly. We understand that has been an option to us from the beginning. We simply want to resolve our right to drainage as a group. And then finally, we've had a number of private companies come on site to evaluate our yards. So just for reference, the 2 properties to the left of the blue border, and then the 3 properties behind the border as well. So we've had a number of companies on site. 2 of the companies identified that the natural water flow path needs to be reestablished out the back of the properties and then down Warrington, as the previous speaker was identifying. And the 3rd company, as a matter of fact, wouldn't even provide us with a quote because they don't want to get involved in an issue this complex. So bringing us to today, we received confirmation from Development Engineering last week that the intended drainage flow is at the rear of the properties and discharges on the east side of 10 Warrington Place. We're pleased with this solution. This alleviates the issue that we had. This is actually the solution that we had asked the applicant to collaborate with on us. And then we've sought assistance from the city to have this pathway reestablished in order to prevent any further property damage we've sustained. We want to have a safe environment and have unencumbered use of our properties. We understand there's a number of other items at play in regards to what's in the package that was presented. We're not really concerned with those. In regards to the placement of the pool shed, there are portions of it that are over the property line.
Would you say it's your opinion? I mean, we've isolated one property owner among 8 that share this back property line, which is, are you suggesting that the installation of this shed has interrupted what was once a functioning swale that allowed drainage to occur prior to the shed being there?
That's right, and that's what we understand from the city engineer as well. And if,
So, the shed right now, depending on what the actual numbers are, but looking at this, at the survey, it's within, I'll go imperial on you. It's supposed to be 2 feet away from each property line, and they wouldn't have to be here. Regardless, unless there was a designated and known easement or waterway swale, which I have not seen that there's anything that any owner would know that there's a swale there. This building, again, if it was picked up and moved as much as a foot in 2 directions and plopped back down, do you think would you imagine that would be enough to alleviate the obstruction that this current building in its current location has on this waterway that it's currently blocking?
I don't know the answer to that because I am not
do you
the
get a sense?
expert.
No, I know, but my point is, if it moves a foot in both directions, then it's illegally allowed to be there, and this hearing wouldn't happen, and they wouldn't have to spend the money to do it. But my assumption is that there's a larger problem back here, and this might be one of the pieces that contribute to the problem, but I see a number of large sheds and pools right up against property lines that would really be a community effort that everyone would have to sacrifice something in order to reinstate this swale. However, because this is a private property owner, and they have to go through this process, we're focusing on them. The building department will, as part of their due diligence, request the stormwater management pre- and post-construction plan to be in place, which they now have. They will be reviewing at the next step after this. So is it fair to say that, I'm trying to focus what you're saying, that this building being closer to the property line that is contributing to the difficulty in the drainage of the site of the shared properties around it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Do we have access to the package that was posted to show the photos?
Yeah, we have the applicant's photos. We're going to throw it up. Sounds horrible.
May I say something about that photo, please?
In the interim, yes, please.
For clarity, I haven't hidden anything. So when we talk about numbers, the different numbers were from the original drawing before known exact numbers through the survey. The pin, and I'm sure Ms. Bauer will attest to that, there is a pin at the bottom of that post. So clearly from that end view, there is no encroachment. The post there that is by the fence, that actually has a pin right there, it has a pin. So for encroachment or hanging over my property, I don't think there's an issue there at all that shows that I haven't encroached. I did not have...
At this point, the encroachment isn't the property line. The encroachment is the relative location of the shed to the property line. So sure, the fence...
All right, I am violating that, sir.
We're not even here to talk about the fence. Don't care about the fence. It's the building we're talking about, and it's the rain gutters that are hanging off the building that we're talking about. I can see that they're at least on the property line, and it's not a zero property line.
It's worth noting that this was a drainage issue, so we put up temporary gutters as ramification to prove that the
Yes, but
runoff of the 60 square feet
all it does
is not flooding their yard.
It still puts the same amount of rainwater on the water, just in a concentrated spot. Have we got the photos? This is given the magnitude of the rest of the files we have to look at this evening, this really doesn't warrant the amount of time it's had over 3 sittings here at this committee. Nope, just a moment, please. Okay, so the photo, what would the photos have shown if we could magically get them?
So if you're able to get them, page 13 and page 26, if you're able. So These are, if you scroll down a little bit, please.
This is the post which you claim is marking the property line, right? Yeah.
Yes, so these pipes were being used to discharge onto the property, and you can see beneath.
So
the-
that's probably a sump pit discharge, is it?
Those 3 pipes have been addressed, sir. What the one pipe is for a floor drain that was in my pool shed should I have a major flood.
But it's
okay?
pointing-
And then the second white
Pointing at the
pipe,
neighbor's property, though.
they were, yes, sir, with
Okay.
permission of the previous neighbor.
We're going to let the applicant, we're going to let the speaker
Would you like me to
continue.
address all 3 pipes
No,
quickly or
no,
not?
not this point, thanks.
So after I capped the pipes, because I also have asked for them to be removed, and they haven't been. What I'm trying to address with this photo specifically to try to answer your questions is there are patio stones about 6 inches beneath those pipes that show how much higher the building was put above grade. So number one, to address your question about, if they were to pick up the building and move it, would it resolve the issue? Partially, because the grade has also been changed. But I understand there was a plan put forward by the city's engineer that would install a pipe to remove the water from the site. And I just want to be really, really clear that our group, we've only ever wanted the drainage resolved. Like, we didn't intend for all of these issues to come up. We have no control of that. As I stated, we've tried to work with the applicant several times. And then if we could also go to page 26, if
Well,
possible.
what's happening here is, I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, you're taking this opportunity to participate in a public process as it relates to minor variances, to talk about drainage. I'm trying to suggest that that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about whether this building is going to be allowed, whether it's going to be allowed to be in violation of the 2 minor variances, 3 and 4. And the takeaway that I can take from everything you've said so far is that you feel that the building being in the wrong spot worsens the drainage condition, which is a valid point, and that's on target. Nothing, at this point, that's the only takeaway from your contribution, and it's fine. Is there another point you wish to make?
Can we have page 26 up, please?
26?
On the, 26. It's a photo.
I mean, certainly this, I can see that you, rightly so, saw this PVC pipe pointing at your property, and you went along and stuck a cap on it, right?
That's correct, because I asked for them to be removed and they
That's cool.
wouldn't be removed.
I think it's an act that you're entitled to.
So just while we wait from our perspective, there's a solution on the table that the city's engineers have provided. The business regarding,
But that's
may I
that
finish my
solution-
thought?
That solution is different from this shed. That solution is probably well, I don't know. Is there anything that are you aware, city staff, anything more about this solution? Because I'm going to just assume that to address the communal problem of all the adjacent properties, a solution has been put forth. But that is still separate from this shed not being in the right spot. Does planning staff have anything to add?
What I can add, which may be helpful, is my understanding is that the structure in question was built sometime between 2010 and 2013. My understanding is that it was built without the benefit of a building permit. If it had gone through with the benefit of a building permit at the time, we would have, the drainage and how it functioned, how it related to adjacent properties, presumably would have been addressed at that time. I think in order for the city to be able to implement a drainage solution that's going to work here, our best path to do that is to tie it to a building permit application that will be required for the structure sometime in the future, should it remain in that location.
But there's no misconception that this one property, activities on this one property is going to solve every adjacent property owner's drainage problem, because it would have to extend to a stormwater main in the street or something like that. So while this might contribute to it, it would have to be a bit more of a neighborhood effort to solve it.
My understanding, and again, I'm certainly not the engineer. I did visit the property. My understanding is before this structure went up, that back part of the property in question was, there was a shed there and there was lawn. Sometime between 2010 and 2013, most of that lawn was removed and replaced with the pool deck, along with the pool shed that's there as well. So it appears that around that time, the property was regraded, it was built up in that corner, and it was hardscaped. But again, that's only what I can observe based on looking at the aerial imagery. I certainly can't confirm that that had a negative drainage impact.
And if this building did not exist and they're here for minor variance for a proposed building, we would presumably consider the minor variance, and then it would be noted that a stormwater management plan will have to be provided during the building permit review application, which is going to follow this process for this applicant, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
So we would not normally have the benefit of all this stormwater management discussion before us, because it's not usually in our purview. It's deferred to the building permit application stage, which is why I'm trying to suggest respectfully that we're just looking at whether or not this building violates the rear and side yard setback. If I could just have, well, your photo has arrived. Let's talk about your photo.
I just wanted to show it's wet. So the rear of the property is about 75 feet. This is the opposite corner from where the pipes are, and it's about 18 to 20 feet from the fence line. Just wanted to share the magnitude of what we deal with. We're all sustaining property damages. I understand there are multiple steps in this process, and I feel and we feel that we've attempted to be good partners in a community solution.
You've made that point, and it's to be applauded. Thank you. Carrie.
I believe there are two parallel issues that we're dealing with simultaneously. We're dealing in our realm, and again, this is nothing, I'm just attempting to focus. The one realm is the Committee of Adjustment as it relates to not being in confirmation with the bylaw, okay? That's the shed, that's the setbacks, that's number one. We do not, on this committee, get into dealing with drainage. The only crossover is when they apply for a building permit, okay? That's when it's vetted. It seems to me that this might be contributing to the problem, but there's an overall bigger problem with respect to drainage in that area, okay? That's what I believe. We have heard enough, I have heard enough, I don't know about you other folks, but I've heard enough about your comments collectively to be able to see that we have to focus on the only thing that we can deal with. Unfortunately, in this application, the numbers aren't correct. So that's complicated our lives in order to execute on whether it's a denial or acceptance or what have you on the minor variance side. I don't think we need to waste any more oxygen on the, and it's not minimizing it. I'm not attempting to diss it or anything. It's an issue. It has to be dealt with. Hopefully, the temperature can come down a bit, because it sounds like it isn't where it should be. But that's a whole different issue from what we are doing. So if we can move forward on the issue, the only issue we have power over, it's very small in this regard, and with respect to this file, can we do that? Thank you.
Well, I think you just reiterated what I've been trying to say, but thank you. Is there anybody, so do you feel you've been heard?
Yes, and in summary, no, we don't support the minor variance application. There is a property line encroachment, which we have been advised is illegal to grant a minor variance that allows for an encroachment.
Yes, there's an encroachment, and we determine whether or not it's permitted, but you're right, everything what you just said.
No, it is illegal. We have confirmation from a legal office that minor variances cannot be granted that grant an encroachment.
I won't belabor the point, but this is exactly what we determine. Okay, I will. No, we don't. Is there anybody else in the committee who wishes to speak? No, you've already had a chance. You, sir. So, thank you. Trust me, you've been heard, and trust me, we're trying to focus the conversation that's within our purview. And this is not the last time that they're going to have to deal with stormwater management. Thanks. So to the next speaker, the idea is to contribute to the conversation we have. Okay. Okay, good. Have a seat, get comfortable, turn your mic on, tell us your name, where you live.
Yeah, Shane Roberts. I live at 25 Arthur Street, so I know lots about water issues. But exactly, we're not here today for water issues. We're here today for a pool shed that's too close to a property line. That's not, I don't think anybody in the room is denying that it's too close to the property line, right? Nobody's denying that. So approve it or don't approve it. It's simple. It's too close to the property line. Now I'll throw another little thing in here. This is my father-in-law. I do not like him because he does not listen. But
Well,
I'm here, hang on, but I'm here because I'm a very reputable contractor in the Niagara region, Burlington, Hamilton. I deal with this fun stuff every day. I love this stuff because unfortunately there's things that have been said in the room that are wrong by numerous people, but I'm not gonna point fingers. The way processes work. Whether this gets approved or it doesn't get approved, it's too close to the property line. Whether I know the individual, I don't, I help people get through this all the time. If it gets approved, it starts a whole nother process through the building department because under new legislation, under new bylaws, you need grading plans before you can even apply for building permits, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I think everything is going too outside of the box for this whole water issue. Whether that structure is there or it isn't there is not going to determine water issue. Like I said, I deal with this every day. I build these things every day. We just finished a massive one that does the exact same thing. They got the minor variance. There's no water issues because of the way you do the downspouts, et cetera.
Did you want to comment on whether or not you think that this applicant should have their variance approved or not?
Approve it or deny it based on what the issue is. The issue at hand is it is too close to the property line. But does it affect anything around it?
Exactly.
Not water, not anything. I'm talking, does it affect people's everyday living?
We want your opinion on that.
Right? No.
Okay.
No, it's been like that for years. I've done work on properties in that circle. I know other individuals that I've talked to numerous times in those other houses in that radius of group of people that, and it's funny because when, everybody's together, they say one thing, then when they're not, they say another. It's not hurting anybody. It never has hurt anybody. Whether it's there or it's over another foot is not going to change anything of how it looks, how, if I sneeze, I get a cold type thing.
Well, that's exactly
You know what I mean?
That's
There's
exactly
no
the contribution we were looking for.
That's right. There's no need to have a motion to, no. Finish this today, make the decision today.
Well, we'll decide that.
And,
But your contribution right now was valuable. We heard exactly what you want to say. Great.
Awesome.
Turn off your mic, get comfortable. I have to ask one more time because I neglected to after the first speaker. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak this application in the gallery this evening? Time's up. Great. Thank you for all your contributions. I'm going to ask again for a motion from whoever wants to do it because the other motion was so long ago and so many comments away. So is there anybody who wishes to make a motion regarding this application?
I move that the application for 43 Old Coach Road be deferred to correct the numbers in the request and that it be deferred by whatever term is required, given all the steps that it has to go through. At least we're making a motion or a decision based on the accurate numbers.
Yes, and by way of discussion, what we're doing is keeping the initial fee for a variance going as opposed to shutting it down and having to restart again. Any questions, discussion among the committee members? If not, all those in favor for the 1 month deferral, show of hands. Oh, wow.
I said, for whatever term is determined.
Oh, we
based
want,
on-
we want it to be more specific than that, though. Right.
Well,
I
they're
did
telling
hear-
us that it's got to be recirculated and
Okay, sorry.
Yada,
We'll
yada, yada, so-
we'll find a harder number. How much time? We want a firm number.
It's going to be to get, the plan needs to be updated to reflect the variances requested, so we.
Well, last time it was 4 months.
Isn't enough because we're circulating next week.
Well, last time it was 4 months. 4 months?
fine.
Excuse me? You don't have a copy of the survey? Through you to planning, sorry?
Through the chair,
No.
if I were to identify any concerns, my concern would be that to this day, Planning Department has not received a survey. I understand that a survey was completed. What we don't know at this point, because we haven't seen that survey, is whether or not the information on that survey is going to be sufficient to identify all variances that might be required in order to allow that shed to remain in its current location. One of the speakers earlier today did mention that it's possible that the gutters associated with that structure are encroaching onto a neighboring property. The Committee of Adjustment can approve a setback reduction to 0 meters, but that might not be sufficient to capture the existing condition. To this point, for example, the plans we have seen did not show the location of those gutters. So again, it's entirely possible that even if we do receive the survey tomorrow, we may require some additional information if doesn't show everything correctly. So that's why I'm reluctant to commit to a specific date, because we don't know what the turnaround time is going to be.
Well, the amendment then is for 4 months. So
Which
friendly amendment.
presumably allows it to come back sooner if they're ready.
Yep, deferral for 4 months. We're going to retake the vote just so we're crystal clear on this. All those in favor of the motion to defer for 4 months? Carrie Lease concluded. Thank you. So great. So here you have another 4 months to try and get this right. Thanks. So we're moving on to our next application, which is.
Greg, I will be right back.
We're taking a little pause here then. So we're going to take 5 minutes to regroup. We're going to call that a short 5 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back. We're back as long as the applicant for 29, 31, 33 Cecil Street is able to come and join us right there. Right here, right here. So this is a number of variance requests to facilitate the construction of a private road development containing 12 townhouse units, existing detached dwelling units, which is located on the subject property to be demolished as part of this application. So making way for a new development by clearing out an old structure. We have a staff report that has been received, read, digested, as recommending approval of the requested variances, of which there are 6. Does the applicant wish to add anything to this discussion?
Yes, through your chair. I do have a presentation prepared that I hope I can go through quickly.
How about we just ask if there's any questions of the committee?
Yeah.
And get a sense on whether...
Sure, that works for me as well.
Are there any questions of the committee to the applicant? Is there anybody in the gallery who wishes to speak to this application? Okay. Cue the presentation.
All right. Good evening to the chair, committee members, staff, and member of the public. My name is Jeremy Tran. I'm a senior planner with MPGB Planning Solution. We're the agent for the minor variance application at 293133 Cecil Street. Before I go into the presentation, I just wanted to say that we're in support of staff recommendation to for the committee to approve all of the requested variance. We have a site plan application that we submitted concurrently with the minor variance application, and that was deemed complete in June 2023. And since then, we've been working collaboratively with staff to bring the proposed development to where we see it today. So the list of variances have been established through the site plan application process. If we can go to the next slide. So just a description of the subject lands. It's surrounded by low-density residential development, and as you know, there are 3 existing detached dwelling on the 3 properties there. On the next slide, we have a sketch of the proposed development. It's a private road development with 4 3-story townhouse dwelling for a total of 12 dwelling units and 22 parking spaces. On the next slide, we show the elevations, the front, the rear elevation of the proposed development. And on the page after that is the side elevation. As you can see, the top one is how the development would look like from Cecil Street. And the bottom one is how the other side elevation would look like from within the development itself. On the next page, we touch on stormwater management a little bit. So because of the site plan application process, so we did propose a stormwater management plan, which have been reviewed by engineering staff, and we believe this is an acceptable solution for the proposed development. As you can see, the portion color in yellow at the front along Cecil Street, so that portion, the drainage is going to drain into the existing roadside ditch on Cecil Street. And the portion color blue, unfortunately, the color doesn't come through really well here, but you can see there's a portion of 27 Cecil Street that is currently draining into the subject properties, and it would continue to do so because we didn't want to change the local drainage pattern. But essentially, all of the stormwater within the blue portion is going to be collected through swell, catch basins to an internal storm sewer within the property. And sorry, I forgot to mention, as part of this development, we would also be extending the storm sewer along Cecil Street to the front of the property so that all of the water from the blue portion could be drained to that municipal storm. If you can go to the next page, that would be the list of variances that we're asking for. There are 6 of them in total. And on the next page, that is how those variances are visually shown on the concept plan. And if we can just go to the last page. Yep, so we just want to reiterate again that we believe all 6 variances that we have requested for meet the 4 tests of Section 485 of the Planning Act. They're minor in nature. They're desirable for the appropriate development of the land. They meet the general intent and purposes of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation.
If we could just keep the presentation up and go back 1 page just for our discussion, right there, lovely, thank you. Hold it. Are there any, thank you for the presentation. At this point, are there any questions from the members of the committee? At this point, are there any questions from anybody in the gallery this evening? You, sir, come on down. Would you please state your name and address and what and contribute to the conversation, please?
My name is Pat Mercier, live at 40 Cecil Street, directly across the street from where there's proposed developments going. I'd like some clarity. You said there was going to be catch basins on the property diverting into the existing city storm source or sewer system, right?
Through you, Chair, we would need to extend the existing storm sewer system from the city to in front of to be right in front of the subject lands, and then we would have a system of swell and catch basins to collect all of those water on the site and draining into this storm system.
All right, so obviously you haven't lived there, you don't know what it's like on a rainy day. So all these swales and everything that's going there is going to fill that. It fills it, and it does fill it quite a bit, right? So now you're going to put another 12 structures up with, you know, amenities within the household that are going to put more water into the system. What's there for me and my neighbors? There's nothing. I mean, already we're tagged. We know what the infrastructure. I've lived there for 29 years. Have not seen any storm sewers done except that old coach road.
I just want to clarity, as per your concern. I thought I heard that the in-street municipal stormwater collection below grade is going to be extended to the front of this property. Is that correct? So the nuance here is, rather than the ditches that you may be accustomed to on the other side, they're actually going to be plumbed right into the in-street stormwater management system. So that'd be something that you're unfamiliar with, which should lessen the situation.
I appreciate that, and I thank the gentleman very, but the same thing, gentlemen, everybody. I've lived there 29 years. I have a neighbor there's lived a lot longer. We have not seen any infrastructure whatsoever, except at the old school subdivision that was just developed. Now, guaranteed those pipes aren't gonna be able to handle what we're putting in there. Now you're talking rainwater and everything else going through there. There's gotta be some work done there.
So my knowledge, and that can be confirmed by the applicant, is the stormwater management plan is an engineered, in as much as engineers know anything, as an engineered plan which looks at downflows and upflows in an existing system. So if this is being extended, it's probably the start of a system, and they would be obliged to prove to the city that the diameter of the system and the slope and all that sort of thing can meet the requirements of the rainwater. So if you can allow yourself to be comforted by the fact that this is not just a superficial review, it actually is a bit of a review of the entire system until it gets in the street, until it gets to a main branch where your considerations are part of the study.
No, and I understand they are part of it, but the thing is, everybody, is that it's going to the city storm sewers, which are, like I said, again, 30 years I've not seen anything done. I can't see how it's gonna hold it. Right?
Well,
Plus you're adding, again, sorry, you have 24 buildings going up, 24 toilets, 24 people at minimum, not counting the parking.
Yep, so that's ultimately, all I can suggest to you is that they have to prove, before the city will allow this to happen, despite the minor variances, we're just looking at lines on paper at this point. It still has to go through the building permit process and go through that review, at which time city engineers will be looking at reports that they're paying for other engineers to prepare that satisfy the city engineers that the volume, and we now have separate sanitary and stormwater systems. It's not combined anymore. So all of that will be reviewed. You won't get a chance to have your say on it, but that is part of the city's process to ensure, because they don't want you calling 5 years from now, every week, every time it rains, saying that this development has caused a problem for you. So they want to take the opportunity now to make sure through their engineers and their costs that this is not going to be a problem for you.
So the other quick thing for me, on the last slide, it said that there's minor in nature. There's 24 trees on that, within those properties. That's not small. That's huge.
So here's the deal with trees. Just like my property and presumably your property, there's no zoning bylaw to tell you whether you can plant a tree or cut down a tree or anything else. I like the fact that no one's telling me I can plant a tree or cut down a tree. I happen to plant trees more than I cut them down. In this case, it's the same thing. There is no zoning bylaw. Within the city, within the property lines to require that. There is site plan agreement process, which this will have gone through, where there is a landscape plan required showing, actually, do you have, this is true, right? There's a landscape architect who will have had to meet the requirements of the city with respect to vegetation being provided for privacy, screening, and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, those trees are not protected. But if there was a tree on the property line, or if there was a tree in front of in the city, oh, there's a landscaping plan, look at that. So what you're seeing here, those peculiar-looking round wheels, are the proposed trees and shrubs that, of course, will start off, this big and grow this big over time. But this is what they will have to be committing to the city to plant, and this will be put back in place of those trees. So yes, those trees will be displaced, but they are replaced by this scheme.
I know it's early. Was there a time frame on when this is going to start?
Through your chair, I believe after the minor variance application is approved, there are still a few applications ahead of us: the site plan application, the condo application, as well as the building permit. So my understanding is the applicant is looking to start the process as soon as possible, but it's going to depend on the sequencing of these applications.
One can assume that given the time of the year and so close to winter, that it's not going to happen in 2024. The next building season kind of starts March, April 2025. As this is one of the first processes that they're going through, so soonish.
I appreciate everything. My big thing is, and it doesn't affect everybody, I work shift work, my son works shift work, and the noise that's gonna come out of there, not counting the traffic that's already there, from up the street, Lynn Haven, they're all parking along the side street, which is a whole other issue, I understand, guys. But you think about it, that we come by there, we have a hard time getting off our street already, and we're gonna add another 24 minimum.
The disruption in my neighborhood with construction and street repair is unfortunately something I have to live with. But with respect to this applicant wanting to develop their property with respect to the allowance of the zoning bylaw, townhouses, apartment building, or whatever, the short-term pain of that disruption is something that is, something we have to deal with. It's not a zoning bylaw issue. It would be a noise bylaw issue, that sort of thing. But I'm sure you'll learn to love this when it's done. You'll probably even want to move in. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. All right. Change is difficult, no doubt. Every one of your points, I hope you feel, has been heard and addressed. So we appreciate you contributing. Thank you. Is there anybody else here who wishes to speak on this application? You know the drill. Wait a minute, you put your hand up, he's coming down. I don't understand. Okay. Well, you found the button, that's a good start. Name and address, please.
Steve Zeroff, 32 Cecil Street.
Contribution.
I just have some questions, and I've been on that street for 43 years. And again, to reiterate, I haven't seen anything done to our sewers in whatever. So I can only assume that the original pipes were installed back in 1955 when the Meadowvale School was. Can you tell me the diameter of those pipes? And can it move the water from Old School Road and this new?
No, I cannot tell you the diameter. It's somewhere between here and here.
I'm
The reason
betting
why
that
I
it's
say- the
probably
reason why I
6
say-
inches.
The reason why I say that is that's not, we trust the fact that staff, city staff, which comprises of engineers who are looking at parking, traffic, wastewater, stormwater, they will get their chance. The applicant is obliged to provide them with that information that satisfies them. And they are working on behalf of the citizens of St. Catharines to make our world a better place. So the specifics of that question, no, I can't answer. I don't think the applicant can answer.
Through your chair, actually, I do have that number here.
I stand corrected.
So the existing storm sewer on Cecil Street is about 6.75 meter in diameter.
6.75 meters in diameter?
Oh, I'm sorry, 675 millimeters, so 0.675 meters.
So more than 2 feet, less than 3 feet.
Okay. The reason I say that is ever since Old School Road has come in and the amount of water that has come into Cecil Street, I've been now getting water in my basement. So to add some others, because you're going to get rid of those trees, that one is a willow that does drink up a lot of this water, and all our backyards seem to drain because Dorothy Street drains into Cecil Street, and then it comes into our, so we're just going to get a lot more.
Well, one could assume, and I think it's fact, that because there's a stormwater management plan we're now proposed where there currently is not, you know, there is more more of an engineered response to water as opposed to where it might surface runoff might end up. So the takeaway here I'm trying to convey is this will not go unreviewed, and it will not be approved until it meets. No, it won't be approved until a city is satisfied, and I say the city, but I mean the city. City staff are satisfied that it meets the requirements because, again, they would rather deal with this now and make them pay for the improvement than to rush something through and have to impact 10 or 12 neighbors who are going to be calling City Hall every day if it doesn't work out the way it's supposed to. So there's a process in place. This is not it. This is the beginning of the overall process, but the specifics of that process happen after this meeting.
The other one is, you mentioned it's a 3-story building?
Through your chair, yes, there are 3. They are actually 8.4 meter height, in height, sorry.
So 2.5 story.
Yes, I believe so.
So the zoning bylaw for this, I'm going to guess, is somewhere probably around 11 meter height for the building. So they're not here for zoning bylaw variance because they're shorter than the tallest they're allowed to be.
Well, the concern is that all the houses that are around that area are bungalows. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Now, I understand at Old School Road, there's a transition to a 2-story building because there's other 2-story buildings that are further down, like number 80, 78, and 76.
So specifically, you're supposed to be speaking directly to and through me.
Okay.
As zoning bylaws mature, as the population increases, in 1960, when these bungalows were being built, or 1950, for returning soldiers from the war, to be cheap and inexpensive, they had to end up having to be 1-story small bungalows affordable. Fast forward 60, 70 years later, the population's increased by however much. The zoning bylaw has changed to allow all those properties to have 11 meter tall buildings on them. So it says, okay, you're not restricted to a decision made 60 years ago. You now have the opportunity, everybody has the opportunity to increase the value of the property, to live there throughout their life by adding a 2nd floor, living on the ground floor, renting it out, whatever. So this happens to be one of the newer properties being developed in the neighborhood, and yes, it will stand in contrast at this point in time because it's an 8.5 meter tall building, but 20 years from now, presumably, they're all going to be two-story buildings because that's what the zoning bylaw allows. So it is, again, there's an image of the building, and it meets the zoning bylaw requirements, just as your property would if you were to want to build a two-story building or sell it to a developer who's going to pay you twice as much as what it's worth because they can put 4 units on there. So it's not a lopsided, no rules are being bent for this development. Everybody benefits from that same height limit. But they're taking advantage of it now.
Are we tied into the number of units that they can build? Can the city turn around and say, let's make it 8 units and create some green space?
There is a dwelling unit density ratio, which is meant to make sure that it's not overdeveloped with respect to building, and that the ratio, the ratio of landscape area or soft area, there's a number or a percentage, probably 35% or 45%, something like that. So that's in there. They're within those requirements.
Okay.
The short answer is, there is a zoning bylaw which is reviewed every 5 years. There's a public consultation process when they change things, and when they come around, we can choose to participate as citizens or not. But usually in there are these zoning bylaws, which are laws that this developer, this person's client has to adhere to. But we don't become acutely aware of it until it happens in our neighborhood or right next door. But they do exist. They're online. They're hard copy, and this development has to adhere to those minimum requirements, except for when there's minor variances, which is exactly what we're doing now. And the image which shows those minor variances, which include mostly setbacks, or they're all setbacks, is exactly what we're looking for. So half of the setbacks are internal, and the other 3 setbacks are to the rear of the property, side of the property, and the front of the property. And the ratio of ask versus what's required varies among them all. So those 6 highlighted items are specifically what we're looking at today. Everything else meets the zoning bylaw. Height, number of unit area, landscape coverage, emergency vehicle access and turnaround. So the hammerhead we're seeing at the end and those drawings are to show that a fire truck, an emergency vehicle can get to the back of the property, turn around and exit. So all those other considerations that you haven't brought up are also part of this.
So that would be a new street.
So this is considered a private road development, so it's not a public road. It meets the requirements of a private road, so each unit will probably be whatever street, A, B, C, D, because they are a subset of this private road. Private roads also have different requirements, width and building proximity relative to a public road development.
Okay.
So they'll be responsible probably for garbage pickup, maybe they can wheel it all to the end, probably responsible for snow removal and that sort of thing.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. You're the younger or the better looking of the two, but one of you wanted to come down here. Okay, well, there we go. Yeah, sure, if you're comfortable. So the idea is we're not going to revisit what we've already talked about. Hopefully it's been clear, but we would be happy to hear anything new you wish to add. You're getting a little too close to this guy. You're supposed to be in that other seat, but you don't look aggressive. Okay, move. Yeah, move, please. Oh, you have to win the prize by getting that red light on.
Oh, that. Sorry. I'm Rick Abrams, and this is my wife Angela. We own 37 Cecil Street. We just had a few concerns that we didn't even know how to approach this because we're not builders. So we didn't know what questions to ask. Okay, first of all, we have a 2-year-old at 37 Cecil Street. Once they start ripping down the properties and stuff like that, how is our property line going to be protected?
They are not allowed to advance beyond the confines of their existing property line.
Okay, when you start ripping stuff down, the ground around it erodes.
They will be required, if the grading is such, they will be required to install a silt fence around the property at the property line to prevent waterborne topsoil from going beyond the property lines. You'll see that around the little black.
Right, but are they going to have any type of fencing up there to protect, and so nobody will go on to the construction site?
They will be required to hoard off the site and protect it from general public access.
Okay. Also, about the drainage, I know you already heard about it. On our other property, we have swales in our backyard. We have catch basins every third house, okay? And I know what you were saying about the drainage, because we have an easement between our property that goes out to the main road into the water. Is that basically what he is being
They're being asked to provide a fancier version.
or is it just going to go in the ditch?
No. You are experiencing overland drainage system. They are proposing an in-ground stormwater management system.
So each dwelling will have a water vent, like
there will be roof
catch basin, like
There
every
will
third one
be
have a
there will be rainwater leaders like you have, probably directed to the street. And on this plan, although I can't read it, I assume along the curb lines are the catch basins, which will take it from the roof of the houses and put it in the ground in the stormwater management system.
Okay, so those squares in the back are the catch basins for the water flow.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I do believe the square represent the catch basins, and I just see at the back of all of the dwellings there would be a swale, and there would be infiltration basins as well to channel all of the storm water to the respective catch basins, and all of that would be collected through the internal storm sewer to direct that to the municipal storm sewer system.
Okay.
My mic, there it is. So those arrows that are on the hardscape, which is the driveway, conveniently, all those arrows are pointing to the middle of the property where those two rectangles are, and that's where the water is collected and put it in the ground.
That's for the front of the property, not the back of the property.
No. All those arrows are pointing from the front and the back down that roadway to the middle of the property where it's being collected. The two arrows are coming together like this. That's where it goes down a catch basin. If I was tall enough, well, I am tall enough. Rainwater flow to here, rainwater flow back to here, and that's where it goes into the stormwater management system.
What I'm talking about is the rear of the properties.
That water's going, as I just said, it's all being taken to that catch basin. So this is the curb. This is the curb. This is part of their landscaping bit. Any water that hits this is designed to run onto the street, down the street, into here. From Cecil Street, from the property line down to there.
So you're saying these troughs are going to be directed to the front of the properties? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they are required to be.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. It's just that I put $25,000 out in 2019 because I had a grading problem with my house, and I had mold, I had everything, water in it, and I fixed it. I don't want it disturbed, right? And I don't want any of this to happen, so I'm good with that. Second of all, the house 33, I believe it is, the little blue house, it's infested with rats as we speak. It's been infested with rats since 2019. The people that previously lived there, their dog was killing rats constantly, okay? Now, once they ripped this apart, look at what happened at General Motors on Ontario Street. They went everywhere.
I just learned this last meeting. There is a rat
it's bad.
pest control thing.
It's bad.
Hold on, we'll reiterate it. Could planning please tell us about this rat control thing? It's brand new.
Through chair to the public. So while the demolition process would be there, the owners can apply for the pest management plan, which will take care of these rats. So the owners will be required to go for the pest management thing.
So a pest management plan is now part of an application.
Okay, an application for the builder or for the people that live there?
Actually, could one of you turn off your mics, because you're squeezed, well, you don't have to both turn them off, but as part of the building permit, okay, I jumped in too soon.
A pest management plan is required to be associated with any demolition permit. So the city would not issue a demolition permit without a pest management plan. So that will be part of something they would need to demonstrate how they're going to address that issue, because otherwise, of course, the building comes down, those critters are going to scatter.
So I just have a question about the minor variance number 6. It looks like it's been pushed closer to our property now. So I'm just, okay, where are you looking? Number 6, minimum. It says interior side yard. So I assume that didn't affect us. But now that I'm looking at it, that is affecting us because now you're closer to our property. So
Correct.
How much closer? And when I look at those little lines, what is that? Is that a window? Is that a deck? Right where the arrow on number 6 is pointing.
Since you're talking through me and not directly to the applicant, I'm going to step in.
Oh, I was just looking at the picture.
I was going to clarify that the minimum, so interior side yard means that the property line is adjacent to another property, as opposed to an exterior side yard, which would be adjacent to a street. So the requirement is 7.5 meters. The infringement is to reduce it, the ask is to 6.35 meters. So just in case you would benefit from Imperial, so they're asking for like a 4 feet closer to the property line, I guess your property line.
That's quite a bit.
And that is with respect to the furthest projecting part of the building, which appears to be these bays that we're seeing, not the principal face of the building. So now, if the applicant has anything they wish to clarify based on that, please do.
Through your chairs. Yeah, so the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 7.5 meter in that yard. And what we're proposing is 6.35 meter at the bottleneck point, which is exactly where I'm showing that number 6 on the drawing there. And that is measured to the little bump out, the little protrusion that we have in that elevation. If we're talking about like the general elevation of the building, we are providing a setback of approximately 7 meters there, except for the protrusion areas, that would be 6.35 at the smallest location. Most of them we would provide 6.4 or more in terms of setback, except for that location, just because the lot lines are not perpendicular. Yeah, and we do also provide, I think we propose an outdoor terrace in the backyard there, which is, we do comply with the zoning bylaw in terms of setback for.
And the outdoor terrace is at ground level.
No, it will be higher.
Through your chair, the outdoor terrace, could we, oh yeah, wait, we're there. So the outdoor terrace is what you see on the ground floor with a little, we have like a roof over it, just at the back there.
You might know it as a porch, right?
Oh, that's the back that we're looking at there on the bottom? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so through you, did I get it right? Variances are made up by the city and city council, correct?
The zoning bylaw,
Zoning bylaws.
which applies to your
Okay.
property and my property,
Right.
has these
So-
invisible lines on it that says, even though this is your property line, your structures have to be within this other little square.
Correct, correct. So you've established it, you stamped it, it's there, right? And people have to follow that, right?
The staff have established it,
Okay,
yes, in
I'm just-
consultation with the community.
What I'm trying to understand is, I'm just wondering why the city implements rules and regulations under construction and then allows the builders to come in and change those rules?
I'll tell you why, because not all properties are perfect little squares with perfect little square buildings in them. There are irregularities with respect to property lines, whether they're parallel or converging. And in this case, it's a matter more so of accommodating a density and the ratio of these variances versus providing 12 dwelling units into the city stock. So there's probably 1,000 ways to design these buildings based on the design that we're seeing here today. They have outlined, as they have to do, these 6 minor variances, and we are here to determine whether or not they should be granted those 6 minor variances.
Okay.
It's certainly a much easier process to comply and not have to have a public process. But whatever hardships they're demonstrating, like number 3, I know that there's a required geometry for a curb turning radius. That's just pushing that curb up against the corner of that proposed building. So these are all pinch points that we're determining whether or not it's reasonable to grant these, to allow this development to occur.
Okay, great. Through you, I just have one question, then I'm out of your hair. I don't know anything about transformers, okay? The
They're ugly.
transformer where they have it established is fairly close to our property line and our bedroom.
So the design, transformers are really dictated by the utility, and they're so proud of their transformers. They always want them up close to the street, so it's easy to maintain from the street view, so they bring their vehicles close to them. There's a whole...
I was just wondering if they could put it westerly.
Yeah.
Because then there's no houses around it, and it would be out of... I don't know if it's safe to have them close to your house or not. I don't know.
You can paint them, you can sit on them. I know it's really a utility-driven thing, but I'm sure city staff have more they can add to it. Please.
Through the chair, the transformer has been allocated there, and it has been properly screened. So we advise through the site plan application to properly screen that. Yeah, that's what we required, and so it's properly screened from the road, and it's completely safe.
So you mean by, you mean by screening is safe? It's a safe location for it.
The landscaping plan? So screening from view. So there's probably, the landscaping plan probably has a bunch of shrubs and stuff around it. By virtue of a transformer having high, what gets you, volts? Volts, right? Not amps. Maybe the amps. The box itself has to be deemed suitable and safe, but it's ugly. So this landscaping plan here shows in the bottom, shows the transformer there surrounded by vegetation to screen it visually.
Okay. Well, it wasn't the visual part. It was just a safety part I was concerned about.
They're safe. I mean,
Yeah,
they're designed.
As long as you say it's safe, I believe you.
Take my word for it. I've put graffiti on a couple of them. I haven't got anything wrong with me as a kid. Any other questions from anybody back there? You're welcome, and you're welcome. Great. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm kind of lost. I guess we're going back to, well, are there any comments that the applicant wishes to address as a result of the questions and clarifications they've heard from the public?
Through you, Chair, no, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
You just have somewhere better to be, I can tell. Any questions or clarifications required from the members of the committee? So, Carrie, would you want to make a motion?
Yes. In keeping with the fact that the Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral presentations, I move that variance application number A141-23 be approved as presented in the notice of hearing, as the variances are minor in nature, appropriate, and desirable for the use of the land, and are in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
All those in favor? Your application's been approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening, everybody.
I'm sad to say we're moving on to item number 3 on the agenda, and it's 7 o'clock. Item number 3 is 54 Tulip Tree Common. At 54, that's report number A4824. This is to permit an existing platform structure on the lot. This was here previously. I remember this project. Anyway, staff report is recommending approval. And the applicant is here to fill in the blanks and tell us anything else they like us to know. So the minor variance is with respect to the required 4.5 meters reduced to 1.3 meters.
Correct. No, my name is Sunil Verma with my wife Leslie Savoy, 54 Tulip Tree Common.
You're the owner.
We're the owners, yeah, we're the owners. We did a expansion of our deck, and literally we just moved the stairs. We didn't change the setback whatsoever. The original deck was built by the builder. And
Incorrectly, apparently.
apparently.
Okay, thanks for the history. Any questions from the committee? Anybody here to talk about this application? Motion? Jamal?
Okay. Keep forgetting. Following consideration of all written and oral presentations, I move that variance application A48-24, as presented in notice of hearing, be approved, as the variances are minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the use of the land, and are in keeping intent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
All those in favor? Your application's been approved unanimously. I did say flavor on purpose, but I meant favor. Okay, we're cruising along now at light speed to we find ourselves at 180 Queenston Street. And at 180 Queenston Street, there we have an application. Why am I not on Queenston Street? I'm sorry. Yep, sorry. We are, in fact, at 455 Welland Avenue. This is report number A4924. There is recommended approval with a condition, and this is with respect to the applicant's parking ratio being reduced as a result of adding more residential units. This application's been before us before, and I would invite the applicant to please share with us your thoughts.
Good evening. I'm Morgan. I'm the applicant on behalf of Sphere Development. So as you mentioned, there were some changes to the proposal, which is to add an additional 25 units to the apartment dwellings, and that's going to be a total of 212. And as such, we're keeping the same proposed parking, so the parking rate has been reduced from the previously approved 1.0 spaces per dwelling for apartment units to 0.9 spaces. The new units are being added below grade, so there are no changes to the height of the building or the footprints. It's just the parking that we need to address. And traffic had no concerns with our application. Planning staff have recommended that 21 of those parking spaces be allocated as visitor spaces. And we do recognize the importance of providing visitor parking spaces, and we will provide them, but we do have a concern with the 10% or the 21 spaces, just because there will be the overall reduction for residents. And so we would propose that maybe the condition be changed, and we would provide visitor spaces through flex commercial parking spaces. 50% of the commercial spaces we could allocate as flex spaces, so when the commercial isn't being used, then visitors could use them as well. And given the mixed-use nature of the site, the proximity to transit and community uses, we feel this is appropriate, also based on marketing that they've seen from other projects as well. However, if the committee doesn't want to change the condition, we can work with staff's condition moving forward. But the preference, based on their experience, would be to use flex spaces.
Bold, thank you. So the bold request is that we consider amending the condition as the applicant is not fully in favor and would prefer to arrive at the visitors parking using flex parking, which would take into account the off-hour use possibly of the commercial parking. So there's that. Any questions of the members of the committee to the applicant? Anybody sitting over there behind those dark windows wish to speak? No? Great. Any discussion regarding the applicant's request for our amending the condition, or will that just come out in the motion which is about to be put on the floor?
I'd just like to hear what planning has to say.
What does planning have to say?
Through the chair, I think our concern with counting the commercial parking as visitor parking is that, in our experience, the peak time for visitor parking correlates with the peak time for commercial parking, being evenings and weekends. We don't have a lot of information about what type of commercial tenancies are being targeted for this development. I think we certainly have concerns about the viability of the commercial component of this project as is, and having half of its parking potentially being unavailable evenings and weekends when visitor parking is needed. Certainly, I would be concerned that it won't help with the leasability of that commercial space. It would be our recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment not consider that change, or not approve that request.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is there's going to be plenty of visitor parking, if you're not counting on the commercial parking, but anyway, yeah.
And one further question is, what does the proposal drop to when you take the 20-some-odd spaces out? From 0.9 to?
So we're proposing 191 parking spaces, and 21 of those would be visitor, so it would be 170 for residents, if my math is correct.
You're waiting for a comment from planning?
Through the chair, that is correct. So it would be 170 residential spaces for the apartment dwelling units and then 21 for visitors. So it would be 0.8 technically, and then 0.1 would be for the visitors, but for a total of 0.9.
Do you want to roll that into a motion? Okay. Okay, Tom, it's your turn. We need one of the four of you to make a motion here. I'll do it. Attaboy.
My mic.
I can still hear you thinking. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, what?
I just want to confirm whether it's with the condition. I didn't hear this.
All those in favor of the motion? 3. Those opposed? 2. Your application's been approved, but not unanimously. Enough of this shenanigans. 180 Queenston Street, come on down. We're looking at minor variance application for minimum setback from a rear lot line to a platform structure above 1.2 meters. The required is 4.5 meters, proposed 3. Staff report recommends approval. And who are you and what would you like to tell us about this application?
Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Hannaford. I'm an associate with MHBC Planning on behalf of our client Kindred Works for this property. We have been before you twice before for this property. We are here today to seek approval for the balcony setback, which admittedly was overlooked in the past 2 applications before the city, both by city staff and by ourselves. So I will spare you the full presentation and just ask if you have any questions that you would just ask them. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
What's the plan in terms of rolling this project out?
The plan is as soon as possible. We are nearing final site plan approval with city staff. I think there was a CIP granted by city council as well for this project. So our client is very eager to get shovels in the ground. And so as soon as we can, it will be constructed.
Tom?
Now I'll make a motion.
Okay, if you can pick and choose.
Following consideration of all written and oral presentations.
Right. There's that part where I'm supposed to ask if there's anybody in the gallery to speak to this application, and there is. Sorry about that. You have one chance to pick the right button. I have faith in you.
Beautiful.
Name, rank, and serial number. Name and address.
My name is Radu Pascariu, 188 Queenston Street. Just had a question about the, so we set back, like our backyard's right at the top there. And when I tried to enlarge this site plan, I couldn't see the comment made about the fence. So we have a chain link fence along that side. So we're just wondering if there's a plan to put a proper fence, improve that fence, just because we have a concern about people kind of cutting through the property just to get to Queenston Street faster and like kind of cut through my yard. And that's about the question.
Applicant?
Sure, and through the chair. Well, that's not why we're here today. My understanding from the client is that there will be a new fence constructed along the property line to prevent that. I believe it is a requirement of the city. I'm happy to, or I'm sure city staff could provide a more detailed site plan for you to assist with that. And if you would like, you're welcome to reach out and I can connect you with the client just to detail what that plan would be.
Okay.
So I think the other answer is that, you know, fencing is kind of an agreement between neighbors. Just because this development is happening, I don't think they're any more obliged to address fencing than anybody else necessarily. But presumably, when selling units, it's nice to have a fence there so they can show the people they're selling to that there's a privacy. Is there, from a planning perspective, is there a zoning bylaw that addresses a requirement for screening in this particular case?
Through the chair, it's not a requirement or a zoning bylaw, but it is a requirement of site plan approval in most instances where we're introducing a higher density built form next to lower density built forms. It is a standard requirement. The approved landscape plans, or the nearly approved plans for this project, do include a new fence, a new wood fence, I believe. I was attempting to open the landscape plans because that's where we usually have the fence details. I haven't found them yet, but I'm navigating our network right now. But the site plan has a notation that says new fence. I just haven't yet found the detail.
You'll probably be enjoying a new fence.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you want that new fence, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Chain link fence, it sends the wrong message. New fence, wood fence is good. Great, any other questions?
Secondary, there is a tree along that side of the property. Again, I could answer all my own questions if I could open the file and actually zoom in, but I just can't see the comments on the site plan on the website.
You're here now, and we can zoom in. So we're looking at a landscape plan.
I don't know if you can pull up the landscape plan. It wasn't part of this application. There was a landscape plan submitted as part of the site plan application indicating trees to be capped and new trees to be planted. On the site plan, there are several trees to be planted along the property line as well as some stormwater infrastructure. So I don't know the specific tree that we're discussing, but I'm sure that we could.
Well, let's talk about trees generally then. If the tree resides within the confines of their property, they have no obligation to treat it, to keep it. If the tree straddles your property and their property, then there's something happens where you have more of a say as to the health of that tree.
It's on their property and it can go, that's all.
Yeah, there you go. Probably gonna go.
Perfect. And sorry, third last question. Do we know the height of the balconies and what they're going to be? And this is more relating to where we're here.
Sure, so the balconies in question are actually fronting, oh, sorry, through the chair. The balconies in question are actually the ones fronting onto Valley View Road, which is technically our rear property line. They're on the 3rd story and they extend 1.25 meters past the face of the building and would be set back 3 meters from our property line along Valley View.
Okay.
So, 4.5 meters required, 3 meters asked for, 1.5 meters difference, we'll call it 5 feet. So they're 5 feet closer, if you prefer Imperial, 5 feet closer to the property line, these balconies, than the zoning bylaw requires.
Perfect.
All right?
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank
approve
you.
your plan. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so there's been response to questions as we went along. Nothing more you need to say, probably?
No, we're in agreement with staff's recommendation.
Great. If there are no further questions from the committee, then I'll be looking for one of you to make a motion, please.
Following consideration of all written and oral presentations, I move that variance application A5624 as presented in the notice of hearing be approved, as the variance is minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the use of the land, and is in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Your application is approved unanimously. Thank you. I never thought we would make it, but are we at our last application this evening? Yes. What? Oh, there it is at the bottom. 99 Moffett. We have a consent application, associated minor variance, 99 Moffett. We have a staff report which recommends approval of the consent with a whole boatload of 12 conditions. And if those are accepted, then there is a recommendation for approval of the minor variances. And all of this is to facilitate the construction of a proposed semi-detached dwelling with an interior accessory dwelling unit within each semi-detached dwelling unit on the property. So having had an opportunity, hopefully, to read the report and the 12 conditions, is there anything you wish to add?
Not really. I did have some questions regarding the conditions.
Everyone does.
But yeah, I just wanted to thank city staff for their help in getting this application to the hearing.
Well, what are your questions regarding the
Sure.
conditions?
Sure. So condition number 4 notes 1.77 meters for the part 3 and part 4. On the drawing, it's 1.79.
Are you giving them some wiggle room?
Through the chair, yes, there's a plus minus sign, which.
Yeah, they're just giving you a bit more. So that's not being so exact.
Okay. My
Yeah,
last
should
variance application, I had to come back again to get the numbers correct. I just wanted to make
Nah,
sure we're covered.
Nah, you're good.
Okay?
You're good.
Yeah, that
Good
took some
question,
time.
though.
Okay.
Next.
Conditions number 1 and 2, I just want to clarify, you're asking for the boulevard tree to be removed and then the owner to pay for a new boulevard tree?
Does the owner hate trees?
No.
Okay, is that what you're asking?
So through the chair to the applicant, regarding the first condition about payment of cash in lieu, it's city's parkland bylaws that was approved by council. It's a requirement for every new lot that is created, so that payment is a standard condition for new lots during the severance process. Regarding the second condition, it's also standard condition coming from Community Recreation and Culture Services Department for every new lot to pay the fee for the new boulevard tree.
So at the end of this.
you're buying a tree.
At the end of this, we're going to end up with 2 lots and only 1 tree?
So it's 1 new tree. It's a boulevard tree for the new lot.
And remove the existing boulevard tree?
If that is what they're asking
Yes,
for.
existing tree, I think the existing tree was to be removed and replaced with a
Just
lollipop.
removed, and then we pay the fee for, I just want to confirm, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, conditions 2 and 3.
So the clarification is that an existing tree is to be removed and one new tree to replace it, one for
Yes,
one.
That's what they're asking for. Elaine, did you want?
It's because there's a road widening. When you have a road widening, you can't have any encroachments, liens, or mortgages. And it's because of the road widening that the tree needs to be removed. And that's the cost of.
Okay, so.
Sorry about that.
The owner pays for the cost to remove the tree, and then the owner pays the fee to plant a new tree. Okay.
Which will someday grow into a big, lovely tree and house birds and squirrels and be a contribution to society at whole, as a large, yeah.
Okay. Based on what I heard with 43 Old Coach and stuff, can we have condition 8 deferred to the building permit and not part of the consent application? Given,
Nobody should refer to 43 Old Coach Road as an example of,
well, given lot grading is part of the building permit review and not part of the minor variance application, I think it's helpful that the consent, or the condition is.
Which consent number is this?
Number 8, condition 8.
Would planning like to comment on the requirement of this stormwater management plan, grading plan at this time?
Sure, sir. To the chair. The committee will be aware that the submission of a grading and drainage plan is a standard requirement that the city asks for whenever we're creating a new lot. Part of it is to help avoid situations like we had a lot of discussion about earlier this evening, to make sure that there is an established plan in place before property boundaries are established.
The city wants you to provide this plan.
I
as
don't have
outlined
an
in
issue
item number
providing the
8.
plan. I would like to defer this condition to the building permit stage.
You're gonna have to do it at any time. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to do it, right?
Agreed.
All right.
But now it holds up the ability to finalize the consent.
We'll take it under consideration. The committee member who reads in the motion will take it under consideration when they read in the motion that you would prefer to defer condition 8 to the building permit review
Agreed.
stage.
Because at the building permit stage, with the building permit package, we submit a grading plan. That's, based on the discussion earlier today, I feel like that's the place where it gets reviewed.
Okay, but I overheard something that I didn't quite understand from planning staff, that the use of the grading plan is to establish value of the property? Is that what I heard? Where was I?
It is to ensure that there's going to be no issues before we approve the severance. Before the severance is finalized, we ensure through this plan that there's going to be no problems down the road.
So unlike the famous Coach Road application where this is an existing property as it is, you're proposing to sever property, and in preparation of the severance, a stormwater management plan at this time highlights this creation of this new lot line. So that is the difference between the two.
So we did provide a grading plan stamped by land surveyor, OLS. The condition requires a professional engineer to stamp the same drawing, essentially. So I'm just wondering, is there any opportunity to defer the condition?
Yeah, we'll do, okay, thank you. You're asking for deferral, great.
My last thing is, number 7 here asks for the existing sewer lateral, number 6 asks for the owner to pay the fee for the existing sewer to be located. In advance of the demolition, the owner had to pay the fee for this same scope of work. With the city staff came out to do that, I'm just like, should he have to pay again? The demolition occurred less than a year ago.
I can't answer that question. Can staff shed light on the fact that this should be done twice if it has in fact already been done once?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of development engineering process, but as far as I know, if the work was done and it is to the satisfaction of development engineering department, this condition will be cleared right away.
This is probably more to do with the fact, again, as one property, there's one service. As two properties, we want to make sure that the one service doesn't cross the property line.
Agreed.
Again, it's because you're creating a new property line that this is going to be required. But you're asking for it to potentially be deferred in our decision, so.
Yeah, like the location of the existing sewer in the street wouldn't change.
No, but you're not locating the sewer in the street.
No, that was what was documented before the demolition. The location of the existing services.
Yeah, so that'd be on your property line, though. because when you create a new property line, they want to make sure that each line is going to be, each side now will be serviced independently from the street.
Right. So I don't have any issues keeping services on separate lots. I agree that needs to happen. I'm just saying this information was paid for and collected. Can we not just refer to that information?
Okay, great, thank you.
That's all I had.
So to the members of the Committee of Adjustment, the applicant has highlighted the conditions for which they would prefer, they would like us to consider either deferral to a later date as opposed to, or
removal.
the possible duplication of services. So whoever's reading the motion can take that into consideration when they do so. Or they can just follow staff recommendation.
Following consideration of all written and oral presentations, I move the consent application B 1424 SC and variance applications A 52 and 53/24 as presented in the notice of hearing be approved, subject to the conditions outlined in the technical report, as the consents are desirable and compatible with the surrounding area, have no adverse impacts on the surrounding properties, have regard for Section 5124 of the Planning Act, conform with the policies of the city's official plan and zoning bylaw, maintain the intent and purpose of the provincial policy statement, and do not conflict with any applicable provincial plans. And the variances are minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the use of the land, and are in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Your motion does not address any of the possible requests of the committee of the presenter, so it's as per the report presented to us. All those in favor of the motion. The good news is your application has been approved unanimously.
I appreciate that.
All right. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Oh yeah, it is night, that's for sure. Any new business, Elaine?
There is no new business next.
Lovely. The date of the next hearing is October 16th, 2024. Motion to adjourn? Thank you.